Ooh, okay. Right. Thank you for joining in tonight's class on, well, I could call it all sorts of things. Just being, sitting with what is, resting in the moment. But essentially, it's doing nothing. Essentially, it's doing nothing. And it's not doing nothing out of laziness. It's doing nothing out of choosing to do nothing. Normally we don't have any choice to do nothing. Our mind, our heart, our reaction to our inner experience won't allow us to do nothing. We feel a busy mind will make itself feel like it's got a really, really urgent, important to-do list in life. And a completely peaceful mind can choose to do any of those things or none of them. It doesn't make any difference to the internal state of the experience. Whatever our mind is busy, it just wants to do the next thing, and it wants to do the next thing, and it wants to do the next thing. Without choice. And it feels like it's getting through a to-do list. It feels like it's achieving things. And from an everyday practical point of view, it is. But what it's not doing is it's not taking the steps to calm itself down. In doing our to-do list, unless meditation's on the to-do list or sitting with what is on the to-do list, we're on that wheel, we're on that mouse wheel whizzing around, and our mind can't get itself off. Our mind is constantly trying to get itself off that wheel. It doesn't want to be busy. There's nothing pleasant or nice about having a busy mind, especially if we're trying to get to sleep, as I'm sure you're aware. And we need an activity that takes the mind off that wheel. We need an activity that takes that mind off that wheel. So the analogy, I suppose, could be like a mouse on one of those spinny wheels running around, but the plate it's on is hot. That's everyday life, and it's running around and it tries to get off, but it jumps off and it lands on a hot plate, which is our unpleasant feelings, bodily, emotionally, psychologically, and that's unpleasant. So it jumps back on the wheel and it goes round and round and round. And the mouse on the wheel is very much us keeping our consciousness in this area, our conceptual thoughts, our ideas. So it worries. The conceptual mind worries. It worries about the future. And it becomes sentimental about the past, or it goes into the past from anger and wants to harm the people who hurt it. It wants to get back at people from the past. It wants to reminisce about the past. It wants to go into the future, and it wants to maybe hurt people in the future and plot what we're going to say and what we're going to do. It wants to make our life, it wants to concern itself with rearranging the furniture of our life so that when our to-do list gets to a certain ticked offness, we'll be content. And it's impossible. It does not happen. Because that ticked off list will still have a busy mind going around. If we've got nothing to do and somebody just puts us in solitary confinement for a day, or even for an hour, it's uncomfortable just because our mind's busy. I mean, I've noticed an analogy to this is a doctor's waiting room with no reading literature and no mobile phone. You just got to sit. Whereas if our mind's calm and we've got an hour to just sit, it's lovely. It's really nice. It's just a pleasant, relaxed recharge, just resting. So with a busy mind, it's like there's this hot plate, the mouse is whizzing around, which is like our mind. It wants to hop off of that experience, but what it hops onto is unpleasant feelings, like a hot plate, and it jumps back on the wheel. So our life really is, even in our dreams, is like the mouse going around in a wheel, and then it jumps onto the surface, and the surface is hot, so it jumps back on the wheel, and neither are pleasant. So it's just jumping between busy mind and uncomfortable feeling. And uncomfortable feelings tend to happen down from the neck. And unpleasant thoughts tend to happen from the neck up. When we've been traumatized and highly disturbed, as a protective measure, we can shut off from our feelings. It's like there's a tap, a valve in our neck, and we turn it off, and our mind will only go in this area, whizzing around, because below here is very unpleasant, or potentially very unpleasant trauma. And we become detached from our feelings, emotionally unavailable to ourselves, other than very strong feelings like jealousy, anger, those sorts of feelings. Grieving and things like that. But there's a whole load of really nice feelings we can have in here, and we can rest slower down, so it's more stilling, it's more grounding. So this is like the mouse wheel, and this is like the hot plate that it jumps into. So our breathing meditation and body relaxation are it's like making the plate cool. It cools the plate so that when our mind jumps off the wheel, it comes into something that it can stay in. It doesn't have to jump back. It doesn't have to jump back into the busy wheel again. And that's all discontentment is. Discontentment is a mind that can't get itself slow and can't rest with the feelings that are there. We attempt to solve this through external measures. We attempt to try and solve this through distraction. This plight of ours, this human condition, or this sentient condition, a busy mind and unpleasant feelings, and where do we go? No peace in either. We try to solve it by changing the external world, because deludedly we perceive that the external world does deliver that happiness, and that misconception occurs because we get relief in certain external conditions. So if we're too hot and we get in a cool bath, we'll feel relief and it'll feel nice. But if we're cold and get in a cold bath, the same cold bath, it'll feel horrible. So a reduction in a greater stress, a reduction in a greater unpleasantness feels pleasant, and it's a delusion. If we just take our shoes off now, it just feels fine. But if we were walk to 20 miles and take our shoes off, it feels fantastic. Same shoes, same feet. There's just a reduction in unpleasantness getting those shoes off. If our feet feel tired, getting the shoes off feels great. If our feet aren't tired, getting the shoes off doesn't feel great. The only thing that's different between the two is the amount of fatigue we reduce. We're not creating pleasure, we're reducing fatigue. It feels like it's pleasure. If we're cold and we get in a hot bath, it feels great. But if we stay in a hot bath forever, we'll get a really bad headache. So if something's a true producer of happiness or pleasantness, it will always produce those if it's reliable. And meditation does. Meditation always stills our mind. That's what it does. But things externally are deceptive. A hot bath will eventually make us a headache. Food will eventually make us sick. Music will eventually get bored with that track after we've heard it, and then we won't be able to bear to hear it again. Because a lot of the things are actually just reducing our level of boredom, and it feels like that is pleasure. A calm mind isn't bored. A calm mind doesn't have any boredom in it. Boredom is basically craving mental excitement. It's the mind wanting to stay busy so it doesn't have to look in here at the unpleasantness. That's what boredom is. Got to keep engaged, got to keep engaged. Don't want to look in here. That's boredom. So what we're going to do tonight is make this plate, if you like. Imagine our mind is like a mouse. Then we're going to make the plate cool. We're going to slow this down so the mouse can get off easily, and it's going to sit on a cooler plate. We're going to cool the plate down by doing a body relaxation and a breathing meditation. And then we're just going to rest the mind. We're just going to stay with what is in our experience and practice accepting it. So we're going to make it easy for it to accept it. And then we're going to just practice being with it. And our mind might want to wander off and go off and come back, but then we come back to just resting with what is. Because there's very little in each moment in our lives. There's actually very little. Our stories are complicated. The news and media is complicated. The internet is full of stuff. People want to tell us all sorts of things. If we just sit and observe, there's very little in each moment. There's some sounds, there's some feelings, might be some thoughts. There are sensory experiences. There's not a lot there. And when we see that, our mind can practice not panicking, needing to get into the future or the past. Right. Okay, so I'm just going to pause the recording while we do the breathing meditation, body relaxation. If you're listening to this after the live class, then you can always just pause now yourself, do your own kind of preliminary meditation. Now it's in the breathing meditation or body relaxation, or you can skip it and just go to the next part. So we've done a body relaxation and a breathing meditation. So we've calmed down our mind. It's like we've cooled the plate that the mouse wheel is sitting on. We're going to invite the mouse off of the wheel onto the plate. So we're just going to bring our awareness from rattling around in our head to just watching everything. Watching thoughts, watching feelings, watching sensations. You can either do this with your eyes closed or with your eyes open. If you have your eyes open, just traditionally we just cast our eyes forwards and downwards just to not be distracted by things. And just allow the moment to be in this moment. Notice if there's a part of the mind doesn't want to be in this moment because of unpleasant physical experiences or unpleasant thoughts, unpleasant feelings. And note that. And then notice that you're already into the next moment. Ask yourself, can I cope with this moment? Can I be in this moment fully? And then notice you're into the next one already. Is it possible to accept what's here? Can you do it? Don't worry if it's too much. There'll be other times. You can keep coming back to this moment. Watch thoughts, watch feelings, watch sensations. Ask yourself, am I being able to stay in this moment? Will I be able to stay in the next one? This is very different from being stuck in our head with thoughts. We're onto the wheel, we've calmed our feelings, taken the edge off them, subdued them, like we're on a cooler plate off the wheel. We don't have to jump back into that wheel. We don't have to get back into our thoughts. We can watch what's here. We can notice if we're struggling. We can notice if it's easy. Notice if there's a bit of our mind wants to be doing other things, filling in the space. So we've only done this for a little bit, but the preparation was important so that you get some measure of success. Success in this practice being staying with that moment, even for a few moments, staying with them. Our mind might reject it and pop out into the past and the future. That's natural. We don't need to suddenly be some amazing meditator. It's not going to happen. But even if we can stay with unpleasant experiences internally for a few moments, it's practicing emotional composure. And when we have a lot of emotional composure, we're really getting into the groove of contentment with what is. And just like with martial arts or anything else, any sport, pastime, there's an investment needed, and we gradually develop balance and composure and skill with those activities, and we can put with more. I see cyclists cycling at 20 or 30 miles an hour for miles and miles. Their bottoms can't be their bottoms must be in pain, their legs must be in pain, and they do it and they get the benefit out of it. We can practice emotional composure in the same way by accepting a little bit and then learning to be able to accept a little bit more, just a few moments at a time. It's amazing how these feelings can lose their power over us when we sit with them. Right. Okay, well, thank you for joining in tonight's class. There are other my videos on my YouTube channel. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have a nice peaceful sleep if you've done this in the evening, and a nice peaceful day if you've done it during the day.